Yeah, my connection just got lost. But I'm back on now. Hi, everybody who just joined back. Thank you for your patience. My connection was lost, but I'm back. And our guest is here.
Hey, sis.
Hi. So we have people waiting for us, and I'm super excited. Um, I want you to take a moment to introduce yourself to our guests and the people that are joining the conversation.
Okay, nice. Hey, everyone. I am Tiara, known as Darling Tiara on Instagram. And Victoria invited me today to talk about polyamory. I have a pilot I wrote about polyamory, a polyamorous triad. And I have a bit of an experience in this world a bit, and I've done some research. So I feel like I'm equipped to have a good conversation about it.
Yes, I'm super. Um, I know you're going to be speaking to some of your personal experience as well as some of your expertise on the subject. So I want to jump into.
Call myself an expert. I wouldn't call myself an expert at all. I would not. But I do have some viewpoints on the subject, though.
Okay. So one of the first questions that I get and my partner get a lot from women is, what do you do if you're monogamous and your partner is not? What advice would you give to that person?
What advice would I give? This is a hard one, but first off, I think there's a lot of background work when you're dating someone, and you're like contemplating like whether this should be serious or not, because this is the type of thing that people should fucking know before they get into the relationship. But okay, so it's not that people's wants and desires don't change, because sometimes that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you enter a monogamous relationship believing that's what you want, and over time you want something else. So that happens. But the other thing that happens is that people already knew they wanted that from the gate, and they didn't communicate it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I don't even think people don't communicate it because they're being shysty, but they don't communicate it because they don't think it's a possibility, or they think it's a phase they'll grow out of.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think they don't think it's right for them to want that, so they suppress it. So there's like various things that happen. But really the conversation should happen at the beginning of dating. Like, let me let you know from the gate that I dig you, but I'm not monogamous. And so if you enter this relationship with me, you'll have to enter knowing that, type of thing. But okay, once you get to the point, you're in a relationship, one person is monogamous, the other person is not.
Mm-hmm.
I think negotiations have to happen, or you just have to exit the relationship. Only really two things can happen. And if you decide to stay and your partner still has other partners and is eating you on the inside, then you should.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to be monogamous when you really don't want to, and
Mm.
it's eating you on the inside, you should leave. If there's no wiggle room, if that just really doesn't work for the other person, because so like in the Bible they talk about being unequally yoked, right? And they only mean it, well, I won't say that. I would say the way that I was taught it, having parents that have a Christian background, is it only means religion. And equally yoked comes down to a lot of things.
Right. Right.
If you are hardcore monogamous at the core and your partner is not, that's an equally yoked. The only way It could be yoked is if the monogamous partner could release, like, I won't be monogamous. I'm okay with just being with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize that you be with other people, and I'm good with that. That's the only way it could work. But most people are not like that, usually because jealousy or not being secured by their partner emotionally, physically, financially, whatever. But yeah, it just gets complicated and rough when people are not equally yoked in that way.
Yeah, I think you're speaking to some great points. So that was actually the next question I want to ask you. Do you feel like, as a woman, if a man wants to be polyamorous, that there should be certain prerequisites in place? Like, he should be able to provide spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially before the conversations even entertain that another partner is coming in, or even just vice versa. I'm only speaking directly to the men because I feel like normally the majority, when people enter relationships, the majority of the partners are men that want to be, have multiple partners as opposed to the women.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like there should be prerequisites in place?
Yeah. Yes is the short answer. So, me and my husband both did research on the topic, the issue, because it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
We both did research on it, and I will say that the majority are males that want to have polyamorous relationships, but it's not just true. It's just like it's just a lot of women don't feel as comfortable coming forward asking their partners for that. Women don't even, outside of like because polyamory is having multiple partners consensually.
Mm-hmm.
In a way that's supposed to be moral, like you're taking these other people into consideration, like their feelings and their emotions. But even outside of that framework, when people are just like sneaking and creeping, like, women expect for men to want to have more partners.
Mm-hmm.
I will. um, and women don't think that men will accept that at all. So a lot of times I find that in the polyamorous setting is that either the man keeps like pushing for the chick, for an extra woman,
Mm-hmm.
and the woman will agree for whatever reasons. And also the woman may want another companion too, and the only way she can get another companion is if it's in the body of another woman, in terms of her partner agreeing to that. But yes, okay, back to the prerequisites. I think that anytime, anyway, the polyamory goes down, there should be prerequisites for the start off couple. Because most of the times it starts with the couple. Mm-hmm. It's usually not, oh, I met multiple people at once and we organically became a polyamorous triad or a foursome or whatever, or we just have multiple people we date. But it's hard enough to be in a relationship with one person.
Hello.
Yeah.
Come on.
You gotta like navigate. You gotta, learn their personality, learn their love languages. You're like learning about this person's trauma. It's just so. And there's some people like me. I'm pretty much an open book, but a lot of people reveal who they are like layer by layer, and so that's hard enough with two people. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, I feel like before anyone else is brought into a relationship, that core relationship has to be very consistent.
Solid. Yeah. Huh? It has to be very solid.
Strong. Yeah, solid. That's the perfect word. Very solid. But in terms of there's a brother named Brother Polite. I don't promote him because some of his other shit is kind of risque. But his philosophy around polyamory is that, well, it's not just his philosophy, because I believe he had multiple wives and he brought in some of his other wives. But some people believe that the woman should choose. If the man is requesting another woman, that the woman should help find or should help choose that woman. And I think that's smart. I'm not saying that the man shouldn't have any say so, because the woman should vibe with him. He should be attracted to this other woman. But
Mm.
the woman he is with first should have say so on who that woman is, because she needs to vibe with the other woman. She needs to be able to trust the other woman.
Mm.
And then
So
go ahead.
I want to ask you something, because what you're saying, you're hitting on so many good points, and I just want to expand on them before they go.
Okay.
Basically, this happens on so many subtle levels now. Like a man who's married will get a side chick, right? But he's
Right.
too, like you said in the beginning, he might be too afraid to speak on it. Like he
Yeah.
won't bring. Earlier, you mentioned that the man will, like, there'll be almost like a doorway, you said in terms of where he feels like there's an opportunity to introduce the idea. So if two partners are monogamous and then the man just wakes up, well, obviously we know he doesn't wake up, but say
Right.
he has an epiphany and now he wants another partner. How
It's
do
not
you,
funny. He just, I don't know. He felt comfortable enough to tell you.
so yeah, so how does that conversation go, right? And how do you feel like it would make the partner that's there feel?
Okay. When you come from a paradigm of monogamy, most people almost automatically feel inadequacy or fear around their partner saying, "Hey, I want a new partner," because they are thinking it's because they're inadequate in some way, and that's what it comes down to. But it's not inadequacy. It's expecting from one person to be everything you need is a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who there was some infidelity in their relationship, and she told me that she thought it was because she gained weight. And I was like, girl, Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce. You do not need to be inadequate in any foreseeable way for a person to want another partner. Everybody cheated on Halle Berry. Like, you don't have to be unattractive. You don't have to be uninteresting. You don't have to be any of those things for a person to desire something with another person. Like, that happens, like, when your needs are not being met in a relationship, and so the desire greatens. But there doesn't need to be anything inadequate about you for your partner to want to experience someone else. So I think that's the first thing that comes up when men bring that to women.
So do you
But
think it's the fact that a man not going deep enough into the partner that he has? Because innately all women and men have an energetic system, right? And each woman has the same energetic system. We might have different bodies, different faces, but do you feel like if a man goes deep enough into his partner that he can find within her everything he needs? Like, for example, I have this spiritual understanding, right? And for me, it's just proven to be true. That when a man really, really masters himself, not like this fake spiritual mastery, like really goes within himself and figures it out, right? He figures out his issues. He really does the work. He's isolated himself to really figure out who he is as a man and what it is that he needs to bring into a partnership.
okay.
And once he has that understanding, he finds one partner and he builds a foundation with her. And then, especially when when the two create a third, a child,
Yeah.
that he's even more so focused on that foundation.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that's the case, that a man does get to a certain point where his focus becomes higher than just switching partners?
Yeah, I would say that I would say that anyone who is spiritually evolving, or at least working towards it, because it's a process, that their main focus will never be multiple sexual partners, like in terms as a key focus. So I think definitely sex is a driving force for a lot of men when polyamory comes into play. The other side of that in terms of sexuality is that, also talking about equally yoked, a lot of partners' sex drives don't match, and you think because you click from the beginning that you match sexually because you're sexually attracted. And so I think a lot of men fall into the problem where their partner's sex drive doesn't match theirs.
But speak to that though, because usually the women have infinite capability to orgasm, right?
Yeah.
So it's usually the man who can't figure it out with that one woman, and he thinks that switching women will fix the problem.
I mean, some men may have a problem with that, or but some men don't. And you might be round 1, round 2, and I'm done. And he might be like, I'm ready for round 3 or round 4. Or you might be like, we had sex on Monday. He might be like, but that was Monday. This is Tuesday, and I'm ready to go again. So I think, like, on a spiritual level, connecting to a woman spiritually, on all the ways you can connect with a human being. Like, I think that some people stop at some surface levels and agreeing with with what you said, and they haven't even tapped fully into that person that they're with before they want to connect sexually with someone else. But it's twofold, because the human being is a whole human being. So
right,
the human being yearns to connect mentally, spiritually, and sexually. And sometimes there's desire to connect with people on those levels as well. And sex is the easiest way to connect for a lot of people. And then sex sometimes is just a plus. It depends, I feel like, on that person. But I think that polyamory, period, should be dealt with caution, because like I said, a relationship between two people should be dealt with caution. But there's a lot of shit that people don't ask in the beginning, and they just didn't know to ask it.
What are those things?
Are you monogamous or not? But the other side is that the person would have to know their self enough to tell the truth about that. A lot of people don't feel like it'll be accepted, so they're either lying directly to you, knowing they're going to creep, or they're lying to themselves, thinking they can contain it. Like, yeah, I'm good, I'm Gucci, I can deal with one woman or one man. Only to find out that they can't, or they have difficulties with it. So it's risky. I do think a woman should have prerequisites, though. Like, I should be handled in a certain type of way in order for me to be comfortable bringing us bringing another woman in, because it's going to be sexual, but it's going to be emotional too.
Yeah.
And if it fucks around and gets spiritual, then it's some other shit.
Can you speak to that more? Because what you're saying is so true. Because for women, I feel like automatically we tend to connect on a higher level with men. Just people in general. We have an easier time connecting at a heart level and finding mental connections with people. So what do you feel like those things are?
What do you mean? What things?
Like you said that there should be prerequisites, right? So, so dealing with the heart level and the mental, what would that be to make sure that your partner is fulfilled in those areas before you bring on someone else?
I think it goes back to the person knowing themselves and knowing what they require to be sustained in a relationship. And so I think the fear around having another partner, like, once you can get over the I don't need to be everything to this person problem, once you can get over that, what you really want is to know that your place in that person's heart is rock steady. Your place in their life is important, regardless of who comes into it. And so, like love languages, like when you talk about, oh, I need words of affirmation, I need quality time. Well, if you add this woman to the relationship, does that decrease my quality time? Is all my time expected to be shared? Maybe, we always, had Netflix and chill on Tuesdays and Fridays was date night. Now is my date night every other Friday? Like, I need to know, like, you might need to know what specifically that will look like based upon your needs. If you're a person, like, some people need space. Like, I can't have my partner up underneath me all the time. I need space. So maybe in the moments you have space, your partner is chilling with their other partner and it doesn't bother you. So I really think it depends on what your needs are, and you need to know them to be able to communicate them. Now, some shit might come up that you've never experienced before once you start the process of like being in a polyamorous relationship, and that's cool and that's fine. But you can't just go into it and you haven't communicated or really put some thought into what you would need, what would make you feel safe, you know, within reason.
I agree with you 100% because at the same time, if once you agree to something like that, you agree to it, right? And you can't control the blossoming of what happens with another partner and your partner, and you were there first. So say that relationship just takes over and supersedes yours, then what do you do?
I don't know. And see, and that's why I'm so apprehensive about that part of it, about bringing a woman in, because I have like real love for women. Like I believe in like bros over hoes, like women sticking together type of thing. And I don't feel like, what are you saying to me?
I was asking if I could join.
No, you might can request from here, but I'm trying to keep, because we have different opinions on this issue.
I know, that's why I figured it was gonna get good, but
Willie is watching from right there.
It's so funny. He wants to join in the conversation to offer his perspective.
He wants to join in.
I didn't want to take away from her. I just wanted to add to.
It's up to her. I mean, it's up to her if she feels
comfortable. I'm
comfortable.
gonna answer this question and then I'm gonna tap you in.
Okay.
Refocus me. Where were we on? Where were we at?
If another woman comes in and you feel like it supersedes your relationship.
Okay. And so what I was saying is that is my fear. One. My other fear is becoming a jealous monster. Jealousy is an ugly trait, because I gave the example, like, I'm actually the type of person that I do need space in a relationship. But jealousy would have me tripping if he's spending time with another woman, and if she wasn't here, like, I wouldn't even been trying to get with him. Like, you know, like, jealousy would have me being like, well, he's not doing this for me, or
I understand where you're from. So is it possible then to even have full transparency with multiple people involved in a relationship, right? Because you can't record your conversations and go back and say them verbatim to your partner. Like, you make them feel like they're completely filled in on the relationship that you have with that person.
And that's the other thing. Like, what it takes for you to check your own shit and how you're communicating, how you're dealing with people you're supposed to love or be in a loving relationship with. Two, it takes for all the people in the relationship to have high standards around communication and around honesty. My other fear is that another woman will enter the relationship and she will be used to being catty, being dishonest, while I'm trying to be real and open. And now I gotta boss up on a bitch like I'm from East Oakland, and I don't want to treat another woman like that. Now I gotta be like, get the fuck out of my fucking house. And I don't want to treat another woman like that. I don't want to go there. That is not a side of myself that I would like, that I would admire. But because and it really goes back to the dating process, like how I was saying that people don't ask enough questions in the beginning. They don't take enough time with it. If we're going to enter another woman into our relationship, we got to take time with that shit. And I mean like deliberate time, so we can learn each other to see if we even mesh or not before we take it to that level, because it can get messy.
Yeah.
That's not the point of it. That is not the point.
So what is the point of it?
I think the point of polyamory is freedom, not freedom like there's no rules and no boundaries and no contracts, because that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But freedom to have desires and play them out and not feel ostracized or negative because of them. Because a lot of people are just pretending to be monogamous and they're not, you know, and they're pretending because they feel like it's safer, but it's not safe when you end up doing it anyway, and it still causes.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you might as well try it in a consensual way and communicate about it, but you still got to take your time with it. Like, really. Are you ready? Do you want to tap in?
I'm ready.
I'm in my bathroom.
I would love to get Willie's perspective on some of these things. So let's see how. I'm gonna send him a request to join.
No,
Okay. No, yeah, send your request to join. There you go. Because clearly I'm an Aries and I have spatial problems.
Can you send? I don't see him on here. Can you send him the request from your end?
Oh, how do I do it?
Oh, no, I can request you, I believe.
Okay. This is getting exciting, guys. I'm really excited to have both of you guys' perspective on it.
Okay. I don't know. You might have started something, Victoria. This might be battle of the sexes.
This is good. We need to come together like holistically to have the both perspectives, the feminine and the masculine, to really like give the men and the women just realness of what to expect and how to navigate, right?
Yeah. I'm an Aries.
Valid.
I'm a Ram all the way, sis. So it complicates things for me. Are you requesting in?
I did request him.
Okay, he requested.
I don't see it.
It says send a request to be in Victoria live video.
Did you click it?
It said requested.
Okay. It's not coming up for me yet.
Through your phone.
Will it only let one person in at a time?
Maybe after you exit, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Or you can just hand me your phone and just pass it.
Mm-mm. Okay, come.
I'm not gonna do hella much. I promise
Clearly, I have
y'all.
a problem with
All the
my
audience members, we gonna get all close and shit.
He have a
It's still gonna
big.
be love.
Hi, Willie.
What's happening?
So you've been hearing the conversation.
Yeah, I heard it on and off. See what I thought was gonna happen, right? I don't know. My lighting is right. I'm kind of dark.
Is that better?
It is what it is. What I thought was gonna happen was that she was like set up the bed, and you know I'm about to do my interview, so I was like setting up the bed, and then I hear her talking, and I'm like, oh, I thought she was coming to do it down here, so I could like listen and try to chime in. But anyway, yeah, I have listened in, and then I came up here. I was like, man, she's normally the open one, and I'm normally the one that's more conservative. And I don't really I don't really share too much about my personal things. One, because I don't think that I'm normally in spaces where people are going to be open to my ideals, because I have a lot of them, and a lot of them that conflict with other people's ideals. And two, I just don't feel like it's a safe space where people end up, you know, fucking with me after I get done saying what I get done saying.
Well, definitely a safe space, and we welcome your perspective and what you have to share.
Let me hold it.
You got the long arm.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Boom. Okay. Cool.
Did you remember what you wanted to say?
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot. I was listening to, what was the last thing that you said to her? You asked about you.
Oh, about bringing another.
Many good questions, but I mean, one of them was, what if the first one that we opened was with, if you're monogamous and your partner's not, what do you do? That was one of them.
Okay. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. If you're monogamous and your partner is not monogamous, so there's levels to this, is in my opinion, is that if you're monogamous and your partner's not monogamous, one, how far in are you in the relationship? Like, are you at that unconditional love portion and you find out that your person is not monogamous? Or are you at the point of like, oh, we just got into a relationship, it's 6 months in, and like, oh, I just found out that you're not monogamous. Either indirectly or directly found out that you're not monogamous. I feel like with the early relationship, you would have to, I would make a choice in like, okay, do I move forward with this person or do I let this person go? If I'm a hardcore monogamous, then at that point it's easier to make that transition and be like, yeah, no, you take your non-monogamous ass somewhere else. But I think that if you've been in a relationship where you've gotten to that point where you have this more, I guess I can say agape type of love, this God type love, where you're more so like, oh, that hurt me, that offended me, this is the problem, but how can we make this work? Type of perspective. Then in that perspective, I would try to make it work. It actually to keep the openness. I mean, that was kind of our perspective. Is like she more so brought up the polyamory stuff to me. Like we went to an event or some stuff like that, and I was.
That's why I was saying not all women are like that, because I'm one of those women.
I didn't know how much how much it was being broken down in this space, but the thought process around it was more so like, that don't sound too cool, but I'm gonna listen and let's go to this event and let's hear from these other people that are talking, and let's go on some YouTubes and let's go on some let's go on to see where this goes, and to learn from it. And then to make a long story short, that process then came down to me understanding and having more clarity around where I am in the polyamory mind space. Because I think polyamory is a huge word that has a lot of different definitions of it. I mean, even if you look at the look online for it and you see like the maps of polyamory or the ways in which you can be polyamory, and you see all these colored maps, it's like 30 different colors or whatever. But that ideology, I was able to have more clarity because I dove into it with her and explored the spaces with her, which made me feel more at ease about who I am as an individual and where I fall in this. What is that? The pendulum or that? What did you say?
The spectrum.
The spectrum, yeah, of polyamory, I would say.
That's a beautiful answer, and it's so
which is the spectrum that most men fall into,
mm-hmm.
which is I'm cool with having multiple chicks and you having a chick, but that's about it.
See.
That's basic, whether you want to put it in a polyamorous term,
a
polygamous term, or just a man that got multiple chicks.
You know what? But for the audience though, and especially for new people, I think that can end up being misconstrued in the sense of like, yeah, I want to hold a whole bunch of bitches, and you know what I'm saying, I don't need you fucking with these niggas, I'm talking about, because I'm just, a man, and lions, how lions do, that was the conversation early on in our relationship, not early on into this polyamory conversation, where it was more so that we trying to use this logic of history, and I think somebody just said something. I didn't get to read the whole thing. More was earlier humans
more prone to have more
polyamorous
type of arrangement. Are humans more naturally polyamorous?
Right. So that kind of thing, I was using things like that to help lead my thought process around it. Like, no, this is why we shouldn't be doing it this way. We should be doing it this way because of this, and trying to use that as my leverage around it. And it ended up being a very egotistical process. Like me and her both went through this whole egotistical process with it, and ended up affecting our relationship in negative ways and stuff, and where we both really was just kept trying to do whatever we wanted to do. It wasn't even about the other person, or there was no unifying thought or spirituality or any of that kind of stuff. It was more so just functioning and moving off of pure desire, than the thinking about how is this growing us, how is this benefiting us, and how is this making us better. So
Man, you're touching on some great points. I want to ask you a question.
yeah.
So I know, and I don't want to generalize,
Mm-hmm.
but is usually the case. Men have to work very, very hard to be at a certain space spiritually to want to even have a partner, like a full
Yes.
time that they can commit to.
Yeah.
So how after doing that work and then having the request to add more people to your relationship, did that like affect your mindset in your the work that you did to develop yourself?
Interesting. No, because I took the path of what I was already doing, because Tiara is an Aries and she is a unique individual, and she is a type of person that if you because she's so honest and because she's so direct about things, it's one of those things, either you can take it or you got to leave it, because you can't deal with the truth or the honesty around certain situations. So I just dealt with it as I had always dealt with her. Was like, okay, let's look into that more. Let's debate about it. We both like to debate and argue different ideologies and stuff. So it's more so, let's debate. Let's look this up. Let's look that up. Let's talk about this. And so that's what allowed me to take steps in that direction. Was more so keeping myself open, keeping my spirit in alignment to what my overall goal was. My overall goal is, which is to be in alignment with her. And in my understanding of people was that we all shift. You know, we're not who we were at 20 is not who we're gonna be
But
at
can
30.
we just say that he's a different case study, because whereas most men have to be, it takes like a path for them to be spiritually ready to like want a partner like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of raised to be that way.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember even
Yeah.
both my introduction to both of you guys, you know, was Positive Minds Group, where you
Right.
both in there doing the work, you know, from that was over a decade ago.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
we were teens, so
yeah.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like when you met us, when we first started dating, he told me he wanted a wife then, and I thought he was crazy. So he, like, irregardless if I'm his partner, I'm his main partner, he's always gonna have one. Like, I know that about him. He wants to be partnered. And some of that comes, I think, from his just like natural person soul, and then some of that comes from the way he was raised.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it more so leans at this point in my life. It more so leans on my person soul aspect of it, because I start thinking more so about my thought process is more so around the ability to survive and the ability to create. And so when you end up having, for me, when I have a woman in my space, I feel less distracted and more honed in. And so the idea for me, going back to the point of Tiara talking about my thought process around having multiple women, or the desire to have multiple women, is around that thought process of, if you have these group of women who are women just in general, when they're able to tap into it, they're very intuitive, they're very in alignment, they're very aware of what you're doing and what you're not doing. There's a lot of things that are involved in that. And one, I can see the issue with it, because then you got a bunch of spotlights on you and you're like, damn, I'm not doing a lot, I'm not doing enough. But I can also see that as a possibility to build, where one woman may not catch something that you're not in alignment, and another woman may be able to help and set an alignment to that portion.
And that's the beautiful part of it, not the catty, messy.
No, not the catty, messy part of it. That's not. I mean, that's the thing, is that a lot of I've had these conversations with men before, and a lot of men, the thought process is around like, yeah, I'm gonna be having a whole bunch of booty, and they're all gonna be in the house with me, and and that ended up being the thought around it. But it's really, if you've been in a relationship for longer than a year, especially when you're in a relationship where you're living with the person,
Right.
And especially if a relationship where you have children with the person,
Right.
Work. So if you're adding another woman that is not a side piece, that is not a booty call, that is like an actual partner in your space, that's I mean, it's not double the work, it's like quadruple the work. You just, you know what I'm saying? So I think when we think about it, we have to have more of an ideology around what our personal or what our mental and emotional capacity is. I like always talk about this one in any relationship stuff, whether it's single people or multiple people. It's like, can you actually deal with two women? Like, can you actually deal with two cycles? Because they're going to link up and they're going to sync. Can you deal with, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you deal with any other insecurities? Or, you know, one might be feeling himself that day and the other one might not be feeling themselves. You know, can you deal with whatever it may be? Can you deal with that times 4? Like, but it's only two women. But no, can you times 4 though? Because it's gonna be real. It's gonna be real. I mean, it's the fantasy is gonna disappear, and the reality of it is like, damn, why they both getting at me right now? Like, they both actually are yelling at me about the same thing. I can't take it. Like, what are you gonna do at that point?
He's saying that, but on the inside, he's like, I want the challenge.
I feel like at certain levels, I feel like I'm capable.
Exactly.
I feel like at certain levels, I feel like that I'm capable. I feel like mentally, emotionally, I feel like I have the patience for it. I feel like I can process it. I've had to come to an awareness, though, that my wife has a long list of things that she needs from me or expects from me. And that she's already had those. She has a long list that she needs from me and expects from me, and she has a long list that she's needed from me and expected from me. And so there's like, you know,
that changes, right? The list changes from your wife as she grows.
As she grows, exactly. So it ends up being like, okay, am I in debt on her list of things that she needs me to do right now? You know what I'm saying? Like,
he owe me.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, like at a certain level, I want to just be like, man, let's just go find somebody, and you know, we could build and have a community. My sister, come on, queen, you know, and start doing all that. But you know, now you're adding on another list. You haven't even got balanced on the one. You know, I'm saying you, but I haven't even got balanced on the one that the list that I got to take care of right now.
This is the point, you guys. I love this dynamic.
Oh, thank you. This is us all day, but I was concerned. I was concerned about this, but
we have not talked about this. This is not a thing that we've talked about with people, so it's maybe
especially him. He's like, I've had one-on-one conversations, but
I've had one-on-one conversations with like my brothers and people that are talking about it, and then I'll mention some things, but this is you know.
I would say that there's a word that I don't like. I actually hate the word. It's submission. And because the way I was taught it was very biblical. It was very sexist and patriarchal. Submission is only almost used when they're talking about a woman submitting to a man. So that's why I never liked the word. But I think it comes down to submission because, for me anyway, in terms of the things on my list that I want, there's some people that you have to pick and pry who don't know what they want, so they can't even tell you. I'm not one of those people.
She's very clear.
I'm not one of those people. So when it comes down to submission, with us anyway, it's like he knows what it is I want. He's picking and choosing whether to give it to me or not, or what time frame he thinks I should receive it on. And so that would complicate it if I don't fit, if we're not, like, once again, if we're not on kilter in our relationship and I'm feeling like, and here's the polyamorous thing. I'm not feeling like I'm getting the things I want, right? However, his desire is not for me to be polyamorous with other men. So either give me everything I'm fucking asking you for, or let somebody else give it to me. It's real simple. Like, it's real simple. And I think a lot of men feel that way too about their women. Like, if I told you I want booty every day and I want a woman who can talk to me about this subject, and you're not interested in that, or I want whatever it is that the person wants, and they've been communicating to you that they want it, and for whatever reason you can't deliver, or you won't deliver. Either deliver or move out the way so someone else can deliver. Like,
But you feel like when a lot of moving parts in a relationship just with another individual, and the dynamics of that, what does that look like? Because is it like an immediate thing? And if you feel like it's an immediate thing, do you ever feel like it's somewhat of an ego urge to get it right now, as opposed to finding out a way to work together to get it so that you both can help each other get what you need? Because there's two people with the needs.
well, yeah, because I think a relationship can become very egotistical real fast, real quick. And I definitely feel like if it's a person that you're invested in, that patience is required. Giving them room to try to fulfill those needs for you. And to me, that is a problem with monogamy in itself, because when I have to rely on you for all my needs, I can become so easily disappointed because I'm relying. And now, mind you, everything that you need from another human being doesn't necessarily have to be in a romantic relationship. Some of the needs I have as a human, my children meet, my friends meet, my family members meet. But in a romantic space, it may be some things that you need that you're not receiving, and it doesn't necessarily mean the other person is inadequate. They just might not be wired that way. They just might not want to. And do you still, stay in that relationship because they meet your needs in other ways? But I just think the pressure of monogamy, it's pressure. And then at the other end, it's like, oh, well, should you make sacrifices for this person that you want to be with? Like, are you a child? Do you need everything exactly how you want it all the time? And maybe it doesn't come down to that, but maybe there's some core things that you need. And maybe you didn't know you needed them until you didn't have them. It's just complicated.
And I want to say to that too, like, I feel like a lot of times people go into relationships and they feel like they're relying on the person to give them what they need, but like, you only are if your partner's not surrendered to source. But if your partner surrenders to source and you're surrendering to your partner, then you're surrendering to that source, and you should trust that you're going to get what you need. Otherwise, then I agree. If it's just like a pipe dream, then you feel like you have to determine whether or not you guys are still growing together or you're not. Yeah. But I do feel like there's definitely a deeper surrendering needed if your partner is surrendering to source. Yeah. Otherwise, you're kind of falling into just what your ego needs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing about it is, like, the more, and I really appreciate that there's this a level of consciousness that a lot of us are seeking around alignment and being connected to the source. And it's really, this is your bae saying alignment. It really comes down to alignment. And I think when we say balance, we also mean alignment. But it really comes down to the balance of it all, because you can't be human and not have an ego. You can't.
Yeah. There's definitely.
It's definitely what?
There's definitely a balance.
Yeah, there's definitely a balance. So I think that when we, like you said, a lot of the problems arise when we're in the ego too much. But we can't starve the ego. We can't, however the ego manifests in the woman or the man, like, you can't starve it. It has desires. It has the need for affection, attention, whatever it requires. Now, when that's all that it's about, it's imbalanced. But a lot of times I feel like in relationships, especially the longer you're in one, you can starve your partner in certain areas, especially when it becomes like, we have 3 children together. I know that you have a child. How old is your child?
He's almost 2.
Almost 2.
Congratulations.
And so when children and other lives come into play, I think especially the relationship can become all about family. And when you think about when you think about polyamory, right, you're clear that it started off usually as two people, and all these other components come to play when you add a person. All these other components come to play when you add children. And if you forget about nurturing that core, whatever that means for the woman and the man as a romantic unit, then I think that's when you start to like starve certain aspects of your partner. And you may not do it intentionally, because there's kind of just like this incubation time with the mother and the child that happens. But people can be lacking in certain areas in terms of what they're giving their partner. And so I think it does come down to being connected to a source, being connected to each other on a human level, on a spiritual level, and then remembering that the ego is still there, still desires things. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, you're speaking to some deep points. I mean, what you're saying is true. You definitely have to find the appropriate balance between your ego and your spirit, you know, for yourself, but then in a relationship, it becomes even more.
How do you say Bae's name? Shalom? Shalom. Bring the charger. Asking for the charger.
Yeah, so I just want to chime in with I think one of the points that Tiara was making earlier was about the idea of the lacking aspect. And a lot of reasons why people bring another person in is because of the lacking thought process. And that's not really my thought process around it. When I'm thinking like, oh, I would like for there to be an additional, woman in the space and everything. It's not like, oh, there's some things that you don't got that I can be able to get from this person.
Yeah, I don't think that's always the case.
My thought process is going to end up being around.
Sorry, guys, I'm just plugging into some energy source.
No problem. It's all good.
Right back. Really, what you're saying is important.
Yeah, no doubt. My thought process around the idea of having the multiple women once again is just like how much more can just be brought to a space. Ends up being more about more, and about abundance.
That's deep. You can't bring without bringing more.
Say it again.
What you said is deep. You said once you bring more, it's more. You have to bring more of everything.
Yeah, then if the person has value, you could end up having more problems or more drama or whatever. But being able to have someone where it was someone that my wife actually met, that my wife actually was in alignment with, that my wife was actually friends with, in a sense of like they were already developing a relationship, and then I was brought into the space. I feel like would be a different dynamic.
Right.
Than the idea of me like saying, hey babe, this is the new wife. Say hi to your sister. You know what I'm saying? Type of thing. And then you end up having all of these things that they have to figure out amongst themselves, where that kind of stuff, if they have a friendship and they have honesty and they're open to each other, then I feel like it'll end up being less.
I think you're making it sound so romantic, but maybe you just don't have it. Have you paid attention how intricate female relationships are?
No, I have. I'm not saying. Okay. So I am oversimplifying it.
Yeah,
I am oversimplifying it, but I mean it. I mean it in the idea of that. Not like, oh, you find somebody, you get a friend, and then y'all good, and then you bring over, type of thing. Not in that concept, but more in the idea of that there's conversation around it, and being that I'm saying that there's a friendship, that there's ability to be able to say, yeah, girl, this is something that I'm feeling, but no, girl, that's not. If y'all out for 4 days and I don't get a phone call, it's a problem. Whatever that thing may be. I'm exaggerating, but if there is some things that aren't okay and that are okay, then I think those things can be expressed in the beginning, and to help any issues come to play in that type of relationship. But at the same time, I feel like I think that the male in that space can end up, once a male is introduced into that space, they can end up throwing that thing left and make it more of an issue.
They can either poison the well.
Yeah, poison the well or alkaline that shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's so asking you to speak to your spiritual grounding, because what you said is deep and it's true. you know, because once you open that doorway, if a male is imbalanced, then it can definitely go left.
Right, right. And so that's the thing that I had been thinking about and communicating with her about, and from her telling you the whole thing, like I'll slap her hoe, like what's the problem? I'll kick her ass up, you know, that kind of stuff. Once you start seeing that, you be like, whoa, maybe I don't want to bring somebody in, and they end up in a situation where they get their ass whooped.
And my thing is, if you know me,
Mm-hmm.
and you even override what you know about me
Mm-hmm.
because of your own ego, like, yep, I know this is gonna bother Tiara, or I know this, and you do whatever you want to do anyway,
Mm-hmm.
just in a personal relationship.
Yeah.
If that dynamic happens with another woman involved,
Yeah.
I can't trust the situation. I can't trust that you'll have your motives, she'll have her motives, and with this being a relationship of motives, and I can't get through what I'm communicating or what I'm feeling, because if you can ignore things about me in the interpersonal relationship,
Right.
and then another woman's emotions and body and whatever else thrown into the mix,
Right.
it just seemed like it just could go left. And I mean, want that.
That being said, how do you know, like, if somebody wanted to introduce this to the relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of women that DM both me and Shalom with this question, right? Like, trying to help their partner figure it out. How do you know that the relationship is solid enough, especially with considering the moving parts that we all are growing every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that you trust that it's solid enough to even entertain this idea? If you feel like, you know, this is the only way for you to stay in a relationship with a person who doesn't want to be monogamous.
Oh yeah, so that when that kid's thrown in there, like the person doesn't want to be monogamous, but the other person wants to be monogamous. So when that is the constant, then and the non-monogamous person wants to still move forward, then I think that ends the relationship. I mean, I don't know who I'm.
So you're saying that they shouldn't even entertain the idea. They should just say it's not the relationship isn't solid enough to even entertain the idea, because they're really not being true to who they are.
No, I think that the person has to make it. They both have to make a decision. I feel like the monogamous person has to make a decision of whether they're going to deal with, if they're going to be monogamous. Because there's people that are in relationships that are monogamous. They're monogamous themselves, but they're allowing their partner to be polyamorous. So you can either choose to be that person. If you're still choosing to be that person, then you still have to deal with the polyamorous aspects of like compersion and all these other things, because
that's what I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
Either you leave or you compromise.
Right. Or the polyamorous person has to find some kind of balance that they can have with the monogamous person. Like maybe the monogamous person, isn't all the way monogamous. Maybe they just don't want to do what you're trying to do, or not you, but whoever the individual is that's trying to move forward in a polyamorous relationship.
Same thing. It's compromise.
It's compromise. Yeah, it's compromise or leave. Huh?
There's a great question that just came in. I want you guys to answer. What happens when a second partner is not enough? At what point do internal healing become an issue?
A second partner is not enough. Well, I think like once you like have partners and you're like, that's not enough, I think reflection, once again, this type of shit needs to happen way from the gate. But I'm assuming you're already in this situation. And I think it goes to an internal spot. Like there's a certain fulfillment that needs to come from myself. And if I'm feeling these amazing people in my life and I'm still not being fulfilled, there's an unfulfillment inside of myself that has nothing to do with other people. It has something to do with something something incomplete inside of myself. And I've been trying to find it in other people, and I'm still feeling like, nah. And that's some people who are like, go through multiple partners. And they're like, not you, not you, not you, not you, not you, not you. And it comes down to something in themselves that they haven't spend enough time with.
I also think with that thought process is that initially, before you even got the second person, when you say, oh, the second person